Well, recently, as far as Sunday, in fact, developed nations pledged to pay for economic losses emanating from climate change for poorer countries. This was announced at the recent UN Climate Change Summit, which wrapped up in Egypt. Let's talk about what this actually means with Sbu Nyati from the organization Ubuntu Economics. A very good afternoon to you, Sbu. Thank you for your time. Is this deal the breakthrough that we've all been waiting for as far as the rich, who are responsible for the bulk of the damage to the environment, actually putting their money where their mouths are?
Well, good afternoon to you, Megile. Well, to answer your question, this deal, I mean, the COP27, in my view, was one of the worst conferences, summits in the past 27 years, I would say, because there was a lot of toing and froing. The rich countries still are reluctant to finance developing countries, but there was some hope in that there was the loss and damage fund which was established, which they talked about, that will assist developing countries to sort of like mitigate and to deal with the effects of climate change. So there is a lot of hypocrisy, and I think we will have to see, because details about the loss and damage fund are not clear as yet. But what will happen is that a donor base will have to be established. In fact, before that happens, a transitional body will be instituted that will look into getting these richer countries to donate into the fund so that money can be dispensed. Yeah.
As you say, the scheme itself at this point is basically a working document. There's a team now set up to basically nail down the nuts and bolts of it all. But we'll have another COP summit in the next year. Is 12 months enough time for all of this to actually be finalized and have a figure as to how much will be given?
I think the transitional body, they say that the transitional body will work with existing arrangements. There are existing funding arrangements, things like debt relief mechanisms, and they will lean on development banks to sort of like finance the entire thing. But the main thing is that the rich countries will have to donate, and that's where the problem lies, because, as you know, Europe and the US have sort of like gone back on their promises. Over the past 9 months since the start of the Ukraine war and the energy crisis that ensued from there, they have gone back to financing fossil fuels. The United States, as for the past year in 2021, they were the biggest investors in fossil fuels. So there is work that is currently going ahead, and they will be using existing arrangements, as I said. But we are talking about huge amounts of money here, because the International Energy Agency estimates that $4 trillion will be needed each and every year up until 2030 to sort of like get towards a carbon-free 2050. So we're talking huge amounts.
But that is an eye-watering figure, $4 trillion, if correct, annually. And as you were just alluding to, many of these countries are themselves dealing with domestic problems, in part because of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia and the European sanctions, American sanctions against Russian interests, which have now led to an energy crisis within their borders as well. So you have to wonder where they're going to find enough financing for $4 trillion annually, if that is indeed the final figure.
There is talk about getting some innovative sources, getting the money from innovative sources. There's talk about taxes. Maybe they will tax. There'll be a tax on fuels, and then there'll be a tax on aviation and shipping. so they can get money from those sources. Also, there is talk about transforming the global financial system, and multilateral development banks have to come in. But what we saw at COP27 is that the main thing that they introduced is the private sector coming in a big way to take up most of the needed funding, and so what will happen is that what we call the Wall Street consensus is in full steam, where climate change issues have been turned into an asset class. There are things like green bonds and investment in green projects. So the privatization basically of energy sources, it has become a global matter.
The challenge with the loss and damage fund is it's not an actual plan that would help reach the target of limiting or reducing global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. At this stage, do you think that we're likely to see a further kicking down of this can down the road in order to avoid that commitment, especially when the world, instead of moving further away from fossil fuels and quote-unquote dirty energy, appears more in need of it?
Well, there will be that, but as I was saying, private enterprise sees this as a way to make money, and institutional investors are coming in a big way. And as you will know, that even South Africa went to Egypt to unveil our energy, our just energy transition partnership investment plan. So South Africa itself is looking for something in the order of 340 billion rands worth of investment yearly for the next 5 years, because President Ramaphosa said we need $98 billion in investment for the next 5 years. So even South Africa will be privatizing basically our energy sources.
Okay. Sbu Nyati from Ubuntu Economics. Good to speak to you, sir. Thank you.